Do you find yourself holding your breath sometimes when your kids and their grandparents are in the same room, just hoping for a moment of genuine connection? Does that pang of disappointment hit you when you see your child barely acknowledge a grandparent's greeting, or roll their eyes when grandma starts telling a story you know she cherishes? And deep down, are you wrestling with that quiet fear that these precious relationships, the ones you value so much, might just slip away if something doesn't change, leaving you wondering if you could have done more to foster that bond between the generations? If any of that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. It's a really common and often painful experience for parents when it feels like our children aren't showing respect or are perhaps ignoring their grandpa and grandma. It can stir up a whole mix of emotions in us: frustration, sadness, maybe even a little bit of embarrassment or guilt. We want our kids to have these rich, loving relationships with their grandparents, to benefit from their wisdom and their history. And we want our parents to feel cherished and valued by their grandchildren. When that doesn't seem to be happening, it's natural to feel concerned and to wonder what we can do. So today, we're going to walk through this together. First, we'll try to understand some of the reasons this dynamic might be playing out in your family. It's often not as straightforward as it seems, and it's rarely about a child intentionally trying to be hurtful. Then, we'll talk about the incredibly powerful role we, as parents, play, often without even fully realizing it, in shaping these interactions and perceptions. And finally, we'll explore some really practical, gentle ways to help build those bridges and nurture those important intergenerational bonds. My hope is that by the end of our conversation, you'll feel a bit more understanding, a lot more hopeful, and have some real, actionable ideas you can start using in your family right away. Tools that can help bring more warmth and genuine connection for everyone involved, fostering relationships that can truly enrich all of your lives. Let's start by trying to unpack some of the reasons why this disconnect might be happening. Sometimes, understanding the why can take a lot of the sting out of the situation and open up new pathways for us to approach it. One of the first things to consider is simply the age and developmental stage of your children. When kids are very young, say toddlers or preschoolers, their world really revolves around them. That's perfectly normal. They're still learning about social cues, about empathy, about how to engage with people who aren't their primary caregivers or their peers. They might be shy or easily overwhelmed by new people or even familiar faces they don't see every single day. A grandparent's enthusiastic greeting might feel a bit much for a little one who's still processing the world at their own pace. They might not understand why they have to stop playing to say hello properly, or why they should sit still and listen to a story that doesn't immediately capture their interest. It's not necessarily disrespect. It's often just a reflection of where they are developmentally. They haven't yet developed the social foresight or the consistent ability to put another person's feelings before their own immediate wants. Then, as they get a bit older, into elementary school, they're developing more social awareness. But they're also navigating their own friendships, their own interests, and they can still be pretty focused on what's happening in their immediate world. Grandparents might represent a different pace, a different set of interests, and sometimes kids just don't know how to bridge that gap themselves. They might not know what to say or how to connect with someone from a different generation. Think about it. Their grandparents grew up in a vastly different world. The stories they tell, the references they make, might not always resonate with a child who's immersed in today's technology and pop culture. This isn't a failing on anyone's part. It's just a reality of generational differences. And for our preteens and teenagers, well, that can be a whole other ballgame. They are often hyper-focused on their peers, asserting their independence, and sometimes anything adult-related can feel a bit cringy to them. They might be more self-conscious or simply preoccupied. A grandparent's attempts at connection, however well-intentioned, might be met with a one-word answer or an air of indifference, not because they don't care deep down, but because they're navigating their own complex social and emotional landscape. They're also acutely aware of authenticity, and if interactions feel forced or obligatory, they might pull back. Another factor can be the frequency and nature of their interactions. If children don't see their grandparents very often, it's harder to build that comfortable, easy rapport. Each visit might feel a little like starting over, especially for younger kids. And if the time they do spend together isn't particularly engaging for the child, or if it feels very adult-centric, they might not look forward to it or know how to participate. Maybe visits often involve a lot of adult conversation that goes over their heads, or activities that don't align with their interests. It's also worth gently considering if there's anything in the dynamic itself that might be contributing. Sometimes, grandparents, with the best of intentions, might have communication styles or expectations that don't quite mesh with a child's personality or current stage. Perhaps they're a bit too critical, or they try too hard to force affection, or maybe they just don't quite get what fascinates their grandchild. This isn't about assigning blame at all, but about looking at the whole picture with compassionate eyes. Understanding these potential underlying reasons doesn't excuse genuinely disrespectful behavior, of course, but it can help us approach the situation with more empathy and strategy rather than just frustration. We can start to see it less as a deliberate act of defiance and more as a symptom of a disconnect that we can help to heal. So what can we do? Well, one of the most powerful yet often underestimated tools we have is our own behavior. Our children are always watching us. They're like little sponges, soaking up not just what we say, but how we say it, and especially how we act. This brings us to our second key idea, the unspoken curriculum of parental modeling. How we interact with our own parents, their grandparents, sets a huge precedent. Think about how you speak to your parents on the phone. Is it with warmth and genuine interest? Or do you sound rushed and a bit annoyed? When they call, do your kids see you smile and eagerly pick up? Or do they hear you sigh and say, "Oh, it's just grandma again"? These small cues are incredibly significant. If your child consistently sees you treat your parents with respect, listen attentively to their stories, even if you heard them a dozen times, show affection, and speak about them positively when they're not around, they are learning implicitly that this is how we treat family. This is how we treat elders. Consider what happens when your parents visit, or when you visit them. Do you actively engage with them? Ask them questions about their day, their memories, their thoughts? Or do you tend to let them fade into the background while you focus on other things, perhaps even your phone? If your kids see you prioritizing that connection, they're more likely to understand its importance. For example, if grandma is telling a story about her childhood and you stop what you're doing, make eye contact and listen with genuine curiosity, perhaps even asking a follow-up question. Your child sees that what grandma is saying has value. If, on the other hand, you're half listening while scrolling through social media, or you interrupt her, your child gets a very different message. It's also about how we talk about our parents to our children. Do we share positive memories of our own childhood involving them? Do we highlight their skills, their kindness, their unique qualities? Saying something like, "You know, Grandpa is so good at fixing things, maybe he can show you how his tools work?" Or, "Grandma makes the best apple pie because she has a special recipe she learned from her mom," helps to build a positive image and a sense of connection. Conversely, if we frequently complain about our parents in front of our children, or speak about them dismissively, we're inadvertently teaching our kids that it's okay to do the same. Even seemingly harmless comments can have an impact. Let's think about a specific scenario. Say Grandpa is trying to tell your son about his old coin collection, and your son is clearly bored and keeps trying to get back to his video game. If you step in and say, "Hey, that sounds really interesting, Grandpa. Can you show us that special silver dollar you were telling me about?" And you genuinely engage, you're modeling interest and respect. You're showing your son that even if something isn't immediately his top interest, it's important to be polite and show curiosity towards others, especially family. You're not forcing your son to be fascinated by coins, but you are showing him how to navigate that social interaction respectfully. Another practical step is to involve your children in acts of kindness and consideration towards their grandparents. This could be as simple as having them help pick out a birthday card, or make a small drawing to send. Or, if a grandparent isn't feeling well, involving your child in making a get-well-soon call or preparing a little care package. "Let's call Grandma and see how she's feeling. I know she'd love to hear your voice." These actions teach empathy and reinforce the idea that we care for our family members. And what about when disagreements or frustrations inevitably arise between you and your parents? How you handle those moments in front of your children is also part of this unspoken curriculum. If they see you resolving conflicts respectfully, even if you're upset, they learn valuable lessons. If they see you still speaking with kindness and maintaining the relationship despite a disagreement, that's a powerful message. It's not about being perfect or never having a moment of frustration, but about the overall pattern of respect and care that you demonstrate. Our children learn what respect looks like by watching us live it out. If we want them to value and respect their grandparents, we need to be the primary example of that in their lives. It's a consistent, ongoing effort, but the impact is truly profound. Now that we've thought about some of the underlying reasons for these challenges and the critical role of our own modeling, let's move into some more direct, practical strategies for actively building those bridges and nurturing the bond between your children and their grandparents. This is our third area of focus: proactive facilitation of connection. Sometimes, these relationships need a little bit of intentional cultivation from our end, especially in our busy, modern lives. One of the most effective things we can do is to create specific, positive opportunities for connection. This doesn't mean every interaction has to be a grand, orchestrated event, but it does mean being thoughtful about how and when they spend time together. Instead of just hoping they'll connect spontaneously in a room full of distractions, try setting up simple, shared activities that both your child and their grandparent might enjoy. This could be anything from baking cookies together using a family recipe to playing a simple board game or a card game. Maybe Grandpa can teach your child how to play chess, or Grandma can show them how to knit or do a simple craft. The key is finding something that allows for interaction and shared experience, rather than parallel play or passive observation. Think about your child's interests and your parents' abilities and hobbies. Where is the overlap? Even something like looking through old family photo albums together can be a wonderful way to spark conversation and connection. Your child gets to see their parent as a child, and their grandparent gets to share cherished memories. When planning these activities, it's also helpful to keep them relatively short, especially for younger children or if the relationship is currently a bit strained. A successful, positive 30-minute interaction is far better than a 2-hour visit where everyone ends up feeling frustrated or bored. Quality over quantity is a good mantra here, and try to minimize distractions. That might mean putting phones away, turning off the TV, and just creating a space where they can focus on each other. Another important aspect of facilitating connection is to actively teach your children how to interact respectfully and engagingly with their grandparents. Sometimes kids, especially if they are shy or just not used to conversing with older adults, simply don't know what to say or do. You can gently coach them. Before a visit, you might say something like, "When Grandma asks you about school, try to tell her one interesting thing you learned, not just, 'fine.' Or, remember to look at Grandpa when he's talking to you. It shows you're listening." You can also prompt them during interactions. If grandpa mentions he went fishing, you could say to your child, "Oh, why don't you ask grandpa if he caught any fish?" This isn't about making your child perform, but about giving them the social tools they need to build a connection. We teach our kids table manners and how to be polite to store clerks. Teaching them how to engage respectfully with their elders is just as important. It's also really helpful to prepare both sides a little bit. You can give your parents a heads up about what your child is currently interested in. Liam is really into dinosaurs right now. He'd love to tell you about his favorite one. And you can prime your child by talking positively about their grandparents before a visit. "We're going to see Grandma and Grandpa on Saturday. Grandpa was telling me he fixed up that old birdhouse. Maybe you guys can hang it in the garden together." This helps to set a positive tone and gives them potential starting points for conversation. Managing expectations is also crucial, both your own and perhaps even your parents'. Not every interaction is going to be magical. There will be awkward moments, times when your child is uncooperative, or when your parent says something that doesn't quite land right. That's okay. The goal is progress, not perfection. Try to focus on the small victories. A shared laugh, a moment of eye contact, a slightly longer conversation than last time. And if you're feeling pressure from your parents about your child's behavior, it's okay to have a gentle, private conversation with them too, explaining that you're working on it and perhaps sharing some of the developmental insights we talked about earlier. For families where grandparents live far away, technology can be a wonderful tool, but it needs to be used intentionally. Instead of just occasional, perfunctory video calls where the child is dragged in for a quick hello, try to make these calls more engaging. Maybe grandma can read a bedtime story over video chat. Or perhaps your child can give grandpa a virtual tour of their latest Lego creation. Scheduling these calls regularly, even if they're short, helps to maintain a sense of presence and connection. Sending photos, little videos, or even old-fashioned letters or drawings can also make a big difference in bridging the physical distance. Ultimately, facilitating these connections is about being an active, thoughtful bridge builder. It's about recognizing that these intergenerational relationships are incredibly valuable, but they don't always blossom effortlessly in today's world. They often require a bit of nurturing, a bit of scaffolding from us, the parents in the middle. By creating positive opportunities, teaching social skills, managing expectations, and utilizing tools to bridge distance, we can help our children and our parents build bonds that are rich, meaningful, and truly lasting. It takes effort, yes, but the rewards, seeing those genuine smiles, hearing those shared stories, and knowing you're fostering a legacy of family connection are immeasurable. As we navigate this journey of parenthood, trying to foster strong, healthy relationships between our children and their grandparents, it's so important to remember that this is a process, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, moments of beautiful connection, and times of frustrating disconnect. The path to building understanding and fostering connection within families, especially across generations, is rarely a straight line. It's more like tending a garden. It requires patience, consistent effort, and a whole lot of love and compassion for our children, for our parents, and importantly, for ourselves too. We're all doing our best with the tools and understanding we have at any given moment. The very fact that you're seeking ways to improve these relationships speaks volumes about your love and commitment to your family. Remember that every small effort you make, every conversation you facilitate, every time you model respect and kindness, you are planting seeds. Some of those seeds may take longer to sprout than others, but they are being nourished. Trust in the process and trust in your ability to guide your children towards appreciating the unique and precious gift of their grandparents. This journey is about more than just good manners. It's about weaving a rich tapestry of family, a tapestry that includes the wisdom of an older generation and the vibrant energy of a younger one. It's about creating a legacy of connection that will hopefully ripple out into your children's own lives as they grow. So be gentle with yourself, celebrate the small wins, and know that the love and intention you bring to this are truly what matter most. You have the capacity to make such a positive difference, to deepen those bonds, and to help create a family environment where everyone feels seen, valued, and connected. That's a powerful and beautiful thing. If this conversation resonated with you and you'd like to continue exploring ways to build stronger family connections, we'd love for you to be part of our community here at Family Connection Hub. Please consider giving this video a like if you found it helpful. Share it with other parents who might be navigating similar challenges, and subscribe to our channel for more supportive discussions and practical ideas. We're all in this together, learning and growing as parents, and we believe that by sharing our experiences and insights, we can all help each other create more connected and loving families.